at 10:30 on TV5.
Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. In spite of the sharpest food prices increase in a year, 2 government reports brightened the economic climate today. One private economist predicted the government now will have to revise its business forecast upward. He said, "We've got some juice in the system right now. The recovery is no longer weak." Terry Drinkwater has more about this.
The costs of energy, all kinds of it, went down. Natural gas and home heating oil especially. It was a little less expensive to cook and to keep warm. The price of gasoline was a little lower too. Overall, wholesale prices fell by just 0.1%. But economists of most all persuasions agreed that was good news on the inflation front. Most finished goods, everything from designer clothes to cars and trucks, were slightly better buys in April. The bad news is the price of food. It went up. What we eat cost 1.2% more, and it was the 3rd straight monthly increase. Beef was up, and by more than in any period since the drought in the summer of '80. Fresh fruit and vegetables were also more expensive in April, in part because of the unusually wet winter here in California, some crops ruined. But overall, the inflation news was viewed as very encouraging by the government. So was a second economic report. Productivity was up substantially in the month of April. The nation's factories were making more of most everything faster. The 2.1% increase was the biggest for any period in 8 years. Mining and nearly every other indicator pointing to a definite end to the recession.
That's further evidence that the recovery is on course and indeed is shifting into higher gear.
Yet with industrial production improving, what will happen to inflation now? Private economists worry again about that.
In some respects, the best news is behind us. I do think, though, that we'll see moderate rates of inflation in the months ahead.
But he also forecasts there will be more jobs, less unemployment as the economy heats up again. Terry Drinkwater, CBS News, Los Angeles.
The signs of economic growth were good news for the president today. With that news, Mr. Reagan seemed more determined than ever to dig in his heels against any new taxes for next year, despite the ballooning deficits. So when a delegation of Senate Republican leaders came to meet with his staff about working out a budget compromise, they found little room to maneuver.
I just don't know. The pieces haven't fitted together. Neither side won yesterday. That's the only new development. Neither side has the votes to win, so we're back to the beginning, and we're trying to see what can be done.
Senator, this morning...
It's too early to tell it.
As he was leaving for Camp David, President Reagan said his tax cuts had spurred the recovery.
Well, I hope that both houses of the Congress will take a look at the economic news and finally admit that something we've been doing is right. I have compromised for 2 years now. If they had given us the cuts we asked for, up until now, the deficit would be $41 billion less than it is. I don't think at this stage of a recovery that increasing taxes can do anything except hinder the recovery.
What if Congress votes new taxes anyway?
Then, as I say, I sleep with a pen under my pillow prepared to veto.
Despite the president's threat, the Senate leaders say they'll now try to work out a compromise with their Democratic colleagues, one with at least $9 billion in new taxes for next year. Leslie Stahl, CBS News, the White House.
We know a lot of people think they can't afford to go on vacation this year.
Hey, honey, the water's terrific!
But at American Airlines,
we're giving you our best.
You can get a great low fare to some really great places, like Hawaii, the Caribbean, Mexico, Brazil, all our vacation destinations with service as pleasing as our low fares.
We're American Airlines, doing what we do best.
Now for your arthritis. The aspirin you take once in 8 hours. Bayer timed release aspirin. One dose is 1,300 milligrams strong. Take it in the morning. It's timed released to give you long-lasting relief during the day. Bayer timed release works on minor arthritis pain fast, and it lasts. Take it at bedtime. It lets you sleep through the night. Now for your arthritis pain, the 8-hour aspirin. Bayer timed release aspirin.
Syria today dashed whatever lingering hopes there might have been that it would accept an American drafted agreement for withdrawing all foreign troops from Lebanon. Syria's categorical rejection came during a Damascus meeting of the Syrian and Lebanese foreign ministers, and that rejection stirred fears that Lebanon may once again become a battlefield. We have reports from Alan Pizzi in Damascus and Bill McLaughlin in Washington.
The public opening of the foreign ministers' talks was jovial, but when the work began, the Syrians came down hard. They rejected the agreement in form and substance. Syrian Foreign Minister Abdel Halim Khaddam told his Lebanese counterpart Elie Salam the deal undermined Lebanon's independence and was a grave danger to Syrian security. The message was reportedly hammered home in a meeting with Syrian President Hafez Assad. Salam was told the accord would put Lebanon under U.S. influence and could remove it from the Arab world. The Lebanese were chided for having given in to Israeli pressures. But in the Israeli town of Netanya, where final signing arrangements were being worked out, Lebanese and Israeli officials called the agreement a fair and honorable deal. Syrian rejection, however, means the troop withdrawal cannot take place. Israel has vowed not to begin withdrawing from Lebanon until the 40,000 Syrian troops there and an estimated 8,000 Palestinian fighters also agree to pull back. Syrian officials made no direct mention of their intentions in Lebanon, but the implication is that they are not going anywhere. Asked what the alternative to the Lebanese-Israeli deal might be, the Syrian foreign minister said Lebanon's choice was not limited to suicide or surrender. The present agreement, he said, would not bring peace. He didn't mention any alternative. Alan Pizzi, CBS News, Damascus.
It has been learned here that when Lebanese Foreign Minister Elie Salam left Damascus, his last words were, "May God save Lebanon." That view is shared by many here, despite an official air of optimism at the State Department and the White House.
Are you disappointed about Syria? Do you think they're going to come around?
Well, I'm going to continue to hope that they will. We're still working on that.
In the face of Syria's rejection, a State Department spokesman protested that the accord did not directly concern Syria, even though Syria's rejection means that they, their Soviet allies, the PLO, and the Israelis remain in Lebanon, increasing the odds in favor of a new war. Former Israeli Defense Minister Ariel Sharon and U.S. Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger rarely agree on anything, but today they both spoke out against the Soviet threat in the Middle East.
They've added enormously to the danger and the tension and the possibilities of confrontation in the entire region. And it, of course, heightens the danger of direct conflict between Syria and Israel.
What they are encouraging at the present time, that's a kind of a small war. That is terrorist activities, shelling, ambushes, which will bring the American forces to pull out from Lebanon.
Sharon had the triumphal air of a man who could say, "I told you so," saying there are already 800 terrorists back in Beirut, and he warned the U.S. Marines there may soon find themselves on the defensive.
I'm afraid that within weeks or maybe even days, U.S. Marines and other multinational forces will be engaged in defending themselves from PLO terrorists acting in Beirut.
Barring a miracle, the signs are increasing that Lebanon will again suffer a long, hot, and dangerous summer. Bill McLaughlin, CBS News, the State Department.
Harry, darling. Sometimes when Harry's been out to sea for too long, I like to shake him up a little with a banana berry blast.
Make it jello, gelatin, create a sensation.
It's easy to make with Jello brand gelatin. I add fruit, Cool Whip topping, and more fruit on top.
Terrific. I've been away for too long.
Make it jello, gelatin, create a sensation. Jello.
17 hours. That's how long it took us to paint this house with a brush. Then we painted it in just 6.5 hours with a Wagner Powerpainter. This wicker chair took over an hour, but less than 5 minutes with a Wagner Powerpainter. A shutter that took 20 minutes, a Powerpainter finished in only 3. It's a tool so versatile, it has a flexible spray tip and a way to draw paint right from a can. A Wagner Powerpainter. It's the right tool for painting.
Another shocking announcement from the Environmental Protection Agency today concerning Missouri and potentially deadly dioxin. The EPA said that near Gary Summit, Missouri, in the Quail Run Mobile Home Park, it has found dioxin levels 4 times those of Times Beach, 15 miles away. In fact, some families from Times Beach had been relocated to Quail Run, where 28 families now live. The EPA said the families will be offered temporary relocation this weekend. Sampling of soil in Quail Run shows dioxin levels of 1,100 parts per billion. The EPA says it considers anything more than 1 part per billion to be unsafe. It's been only a few weeks since Chicago made Democrat Harold Washington its first black mayor after a bruising election battle with white Republican Bernard Epton. Most analysts say it was race that played the pivotal role in the number 2 city. What role will it play in the number 4 city? Philadelphia picks its Democratic candidate for mayor next week, and Morton Dean has been examining the issues.
There are 2 issues in this campaign. One is Wilson Good. The other is Frank Rizzo. They are the issues and the candidates in Philadelphia's Democratic primary for mayor. Good's an issue because he's attempting to become the city's first black mayor.
No one asks me what color I am, and I go out and solve a problem.
He recently served as the city's managing director, the current mayor's chief assistant. Rizzo's an issue because he's attempting a comeback. He's remembered fondly by some and fearfully by others as the city's top cop in the tumultuous 60s and as a law and order mayor for 2 terms.
I moved this town, made it a great city. We had people moving back. We had businesses coming back.
The contest had the potential for mocking Philadelphia's slogan, the city of brotherly love, but both men have campaigned freely in all sections of the city. And a pact to keep the contest clean, to keep it free of racism, appears to have been followed virtually to the letter by the candidates and their organizations.
I'm satisfied at this point in time, this campaign has been free of race as an issue.
Rizzo is not running for office as much as he's tiptoeing. Concerned that any remarks he makes might be interpreted as racist, Rizzo has reined in his combative style.
Is he taking a tranquilizer in the morning when he gets up? Taking tranquilizers? He's quiet now.
I think if he makes a mistake, he won't get jumped like me. If I make a mistake, they'll be all over me and there'll be headlines for a month.
Their styles are quite different. Good is very much the man with a graduate degree in government administration.
We need a management information system.
There's been no thunder in the campaign and only a few flashes of lightning, including the recent arrest of Rizzo's son-in-law on charges of being a big-time bookmaker. The police department is headed by a man Rizzo had vowed to replace. Race has been absent from the campaign trail, but it's not expected to be absent from the voting booths. The polls consistently show Good with a big lead, and that, like in Chicago, the vote will split along racial lines, with white liberals proving the difference. Morton Dean, CBS News, Philadelphia.
One of the 5 men convicted for the June 1972 burglary of Democratic National Headquarters at the Watergate has been pardoned by President Reagan. Correspondent Leslie Stahl has learned that the pardon of Eugenio Martinez is expected to be announced by President Reagan during a trip to Miami next Friday. Martinez was sentenced to 1 to 4 years for the Watergate break-in. He served 15 months of that sentence and is now a sales manager of a car dealership in Miami.
Kiko man, get a pan. Teriyaki, now you're talking. Marinade, a darker shade. Salsa carbo, shish kebab. Kiko man, bird in hand. Chicken base, take a taste. Splash of prawn, dash it on. For the steak or salmon bake. Kiko man, understand? Take a minute, dip it in it. Teriyaki, don't take much. All it takes is Kiko man touch.
Most of the tomatoes you buy in the store are almost as tasteless as the plastic they're wrapped in. No comparing them with these big, delicious beauties fresh from the garden. These are my kind of tomatoes, and this is my kind of plant food, Stern's Miracle Grow. Miracle Grow not only gives you bigger, more delicious tomatoes, it gives you more tomatoes, pounds more than other types of plant food. Miracle Grow, because the better you feed your tomatoes, the better they'll feed you.
The National Council of Churches today ended its 4-day governing board meeting, praising Roman Catholic bishops for their recent pastoral letter calling for a halt to nuclear arms production and deployment. The council, meeting in San Francisco, has had a policy favoring a nuclear freeze for 2 years. And the organization, which represents 40 million Protestant and Orthodox churchgoers, gave Archbishop John Quinn of San Francisco a standing ovation as he explained the bishop's letter.
We feel that our world and our nation are headed in the wrong direction. In our quest for more security, we are actually becoming less secure.
Getting straight information about Straight Incorporated is proving a difficult task. Correspondent Eric Ingberg has the story of an apparently successful drug rehabilitation center which is losing some of its luster.
Straight Incorporated was one of the places where Nancy Reagan went last year to learn about drug rehabilitation because Straight seemed to be working.
I'm just so proud of you.
It claimed to cure more than half the teens who came through its doors. Even though Straight takes no heroin users or other hardcore addicts, its success rate impressed experts. And desperate parents who felt they were losing control of their children to drugs paid fees up to $4,000 for the private treatment. Many, like Howard Holzberg, whose son John was on marijuana and cocaine, are grateful.
Prior to the Straight program, he was well on his way to becoming nothing but a derelict.
Through stern discipline, Straight says it can move participants away from the drug culture.
I don't think I would be alive today if I had not come in the program.
But now some of Straight's high-pressure tactics in tackling the teen drug problem are under fire.
It seemed that their program was based upon false imprisonment, not necessarily, but almost kidnapping, holding the child there against the child's wishes in order to make some change in the child's behavior.
Why didn't you just walk out the front door?
Because the group everybody in the group would jump up and knock you down on the floor.
Former clients told Florida officials Straight had used intimidation and sometimes force against them.
I was always carried around like a baby and in the shower and in the bathroom and locked up in a room with bars on the windows.
I was getting ready to get up and leave, and a person hit me several times, 5 or 6 times in the face and the head. I had a black eye.
Those complaints involve the Straight program in Sarasota. There are 4 others. Each has drawn fire from youngsters who claim their rights were violated. Hope Hirons knew her rights, that as an adult she couldn't be held by a private agency against her will. None of that helped her at Straight. Hope, who works as a sheriff's intern, says she uses no drugs, but was forced by her parents to go to the Straight office in St. Petersburg last February. There she claims Straight personnel used force to keep her.
There's 4 of them in the room, and they were like in front of the door, and I walked over to the door and I started to turn the door handle and they grabbed a hold of me.
Hope says she dealt personally with this man, Miller Newton, the Straight official who had been Nancy Reagan's guide last year.
He walked in and he said, I hear someone in here has got a problem with legal rights. And I thought, yay, here's our knight on the white stallion. And I said, yes, I do. And he pretended like he was going to walk out, but then he turned around and slammed the door, and he walks in and he said something to the effect of, I don't give a damn about your legal rights.
Only 2 days later did Hope get out of Straight after law enforcement officials tracked her down. Newton declined to be interviewed by CBS News, but another Straight official discussed the program's policies. If I ask you, if somebody wants to leave here and they're an adult, can they leave here? What is your answer to that?
My answer to that is yes.
They can?
Yes, they can.
Nobody will try to stop them?
Nobody will try to stop them. Well, excuse me, wait a minute. You're putting words in my mouth. We'll try to talk with them. We'll try to reason with them. Okay, we'll try to sit down and rationalize and deal with the situation. But in terms of physical restraint of the person, that's not our policy.
As part of the treatment, newcomers in the program are not allowed to use the telephone, send or receive mail, or meet with their parents privately. Straight says these are privileges to be earned by demonstrating enthusiasm for a drug-free life. Peer pressure is the key to therapy. Teenagers confessing their dependency to each other in rap sessions often run by the kids themselves. Those new to the program are kept inside the Straight building all day and assigned an overseer who is never more than an arm's length away. Doors are guarded. At night, they go to the specially equipped homes of parent volunteers who continue the watch.
The children who spent the night at our home would all sleep in this one bedroom, and then we would key this alarm, and they were to remain in there through the night. If anyone attempted to come out while people were asleep, this alarm would
Emily Bright pulled her 15-year-old daughter out of Straight after hearing stories of physical abuse. Lee Bright says she was knocked to the floor and held there by other teenagers.
You know, you're just trying to breathe. They're sitting on your stomach, on your lungs. They're sitting on your legs, on your knees, on your feet. You know, it's extreme pain.
Straight says clients are held on the floor only when they are violent and denies abusing anyone. Its officials say strict methods are needed to break youngsters from the drug habit.
We could change the program to make it acceptable to the world, okay? To reduce the controversy, to reduce the skepticism. But the only fact is, it would no longer work.
The debate really is not, in my office, on whether or not the program is successful using this method. There's no debate because the law says you will not do it this way, but they're continuing to do it.
Florida officials have threatened action against Straight if changes aren't made. Now, a jury in this federal court in Virginia has found that Straight's methods in the case of one young man constituted false imprisonment. The message seems to be that even in the name of fighting drug abuse, and even if harsh measures are necessary, parents and children must recognize that the cure may be far worse than the disease if an individual's rights are violated. Eric Engberg, CBS News, Alexandria, Virginia.
Phil Donahue's television production company lost a court battle today stemming from two controversial 1981 broadcasts on parental kidnapping in custody fights. A federal jury in Denver ordered the production company to pay Willow Lynn Cramlett almost $6 million in damages. Donahue's staff refused to tell Cramlett the whereabouts of her former husband and 3-year-old son after the former husband had appeared on Donahue to defend his abduction of the child. Since that time, neither father nor son has been located, and an arrest warrant is outstanding for the father. Donahue's producers emphasize they will appeal this case. Evangelist Ruth Stapleton Carter, sister of the former president, says she's been diagnosed as having terminal cancer of the pancreas. At her home in Fayetteville, North Carolina, Mrs. Stapleton said that she's decided to reject chemotherapy or radiation treatments and will rely instead on her faith in God, diet, and exercise.
Like all actors, I have an agent. Sign that. And a business manager. Pay that. And a secretary. Don't lose that. Luckily, Canon's come up with personal cartridge copiers. You know, the entire copying process is in here, so maintenance is as simple as this. And copies come in black, brown, or blue on plain paper. Finally, Canon PC-10 or PC-20 for the most important person in my life, me.
For information, call toll-free. Canon Personal Cartridge Copying. Plain and simple.
Practically everything's been touched by the electronic revolution. From church organs to toys that make a game out of learning.
6 times 2.
To computers that make a science out of a game. And DuPont helped make it all happen. You see, DuPont technology helped make today's tiny electronic circuits possible. So while we help to make things very small, DuPont's contribution to electronics is very big. DuPont, better things for better living.
And I don't mind going to work because I know that the paint I'm using will make the day easier.
Benjamin Moore paint. The more you use it, the better you like it.
I came from a long line of painters. My grandfather was a painter. My dad was a painter. We used all different types of paint, and I've never seen anything work as well as Benjamin Moore is. It just sort of flows right on, and it stays where it's put.
Make painting easier. Talk to an expert. Your Benjamin Moore dealer.
Boy, I like this paint. I like this paint.
With winter so recently behind us, the thought of summer sunshine is beguiling. Then why maybe be spending a record amount of money for a few hours in the dark? David Browning tells us.
Opening today at a theater or drive-in near you, Blue Thunder dogfights with helicopters over the city of Los Angeles. Columbia Pictures opening salvo in the battle of the big deal summertime movies, and one of the few that isn't a remake, a spin-off, or a sequel.
Warner Brothers, for instance, wants you to come to the Twilight Zone, and if this year's crop of summer films makes you feel like perhaps you're there already in some sort of movie time warp, you're right.
Consider, nearly a quarter century after Alfred Hitchcock gave showers a bad name, Universal is about to reopen the Bates Motel.
Psycho. 2.
There is Porky's Part 2, more sophomoric humor for the high school set. There is Superman 3, the Man of Steel versus Richard Pryor. There is Star Wars Part 3, The Return of the Jedi, the Forces of Darkness versus the Special Effects Department at 20th Century Fox. And there is Octopussy, the 13th James Bond movie.
Oh.
Ask the people who bankroll the studios a dumb question like, why so many movie retreads, and you'll get a not-so-dumb answer.
If you had made 12 James Bond movies, and at least for the latter group of them, they've all made $100 million plus. If you made 2 Star Wars movies and they each made $100 million plus, you would probably end up making a sequel that hopefully you can make another $100 million plus. It makes sense.
Some sense, some dollars. America's teenagers and young adults buy the lion's share of the movie tickets, and Hollywood figures, remakes or not, this will be its biggest summer ever. Paramount is fighting for the hearts and minds of the under-25 crowd with Staying Alive, the sequel to Saturday Night Fever. And MGM United Artists is banking on war games, in which a young computer freak somehow breaks the Pentagon's war codes and nearly blows up the world. Wow. And on down the line, from theater managers to the people who pre-pop the popcorn, estimates of the profits run from merely colossal to totally awesome.
When the movies do business, we do business. The Jedi, Superman, kids' movies sell lots of popcorn.
And if you're still trying to climb out of the movie time warp, surrender. 3D is coming back, glasses and all, just like the 1950s. Space Hunter will feature galaxies flying right off the screen into your popcorn, and 3D will allow Jaws to jump right in your lap. Clearly, an idea whose time has come. Again. David Browning, CBS News, Hollywood.
Unfortunately, our time has gone. That's the CBS Evening News for this Friday. Bob Schieffer will be here tomorrow. Dan Rather reporting from New York, hoping you have a good weekend.
These Bridgestone Super Filler steel belted radials are brand new. These only have 50% of the original tread. Let's go! We'll prove both cars will do the same thing. Bridgestone Super Filler radials have a hard rubber insert near the rim for a flexible sidewall, and virtually new tire traction even with half the tread gone. Bridgestone traction that lasts and lasts. You can feel it when you drive and drive. Look for your nearest Bridgestone dealer in the Yellow Pages.
There's more time to do what you want to do. More time to be what you want to be. When you set yourself free. Set yourself free with Stofers. Do what you want to do, Stofers. Be what you want to be. Set yourself free. Set yourself free. Stofers.
No matter what the job, I do it like a pro with a Homelight ST120, the string trimmer that comes with a free blower attachment. It also comes with automatic line advance and without a bothersome electric cord. Perfectly balanced, rugged, powerful. If this Homelight can't cut it, that's the only other thing that will.
Nobody does the job around the home or farm like Homelight Jacobson. Now get a free blower attachment on even more models. See your Homelight Jacobson dealer for details.
This weekend on CBS Sports, 1983's top money winners and tournament champions tee off at the Colonial National Invitation. The final 2 rounds beginning tomorrow on CBS Sports.
This is CBS.
In our news tonight, the prosecution begins